Lisa shouldn't even been houses down there. She can do what
Monday, February 12th, 2018, regular session of the Anamosa City Council at City Hall Council Chambers. 1.0 roll call.
Rich.
Here.
Kay.
Here.
John.
Here.
Rod.
Here.
Cody.
Here.
Betty. Here.
2.0 motion to approve the minutes from the following meeting, January 22nd, 2018, regular council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
First by Betty, second by Cody. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 8.0 public, or 3.0 public hearings, none. 4.0 presentations, 4.1 Brian Darrow, DVM, Anamosa Vet Clinic presentation regarding the pit bull terrier breed prohibition in the city of Anamosa.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. This is a topic that I was, for several years, have known I needed to come to address the council on, and I just never got around to it. And first of all, I'd like to preface this by saying that a lot of dogs will bite. As a matter of fact, in my business, I consider that every dog that I see will bite until proven otherwise. There are a lot of breeds that can cause very serious damage to individuals and even death. I mean, and if you want to, debate that, I mean, that can go on and on and on and on. There are responsible pet owners and there are irresponsible pet owners. They're my clients, both directions. I was on the council when this ordinance was passed, was created. Maybe 30 years ago. I was a council member for 12 years, and when we passed that, the situation with pit bulls in the country was a bit different. I can tell you that there were a lot of veterinary clinics that didn't allow them into the practice at that time. That whole situation has very, very much changed. As a matter of fact, if you went to a shelter, you might be hard pressed to find. There are certain times when you'll be hard pressed to find pets that didn't have some pit bull influence in them. I mean, it's a really, really widespread breed in this country. I mean, we could dig statistics, but there's a lot of pit bull influence in this country, and that's the nature of what we deal with. I believe that singling out one particular breed, Adrian is a wonderful attorney, but I think you would have a really, really difficult time defending that. I mean, there's organizations in this country that would gladly come and attack Anamosa on this ordinance with a lot of resources. My hunch is that Anamosa would lose after a great deal of expense. There are a lot of people. I think it's pretty. At first, I walked in, I thought there must be a street assessment or something.
The night is young.
Yeah, there you go. There are a lot of very, very passionate people on both sides of this topic, but there are a lot of very, very passionate people that own pit bulls that I believe have the right and should be able to own the pit bulls. They take very good care of them. They're responsible, and I think that the ordinance, as was passed when I was on the council, is outdated and needs to be repealed. I'll open up for questions. I have to go to another meeting, so if anyone, I mean, I can take questions from council or outside. I don't care.
What happened that they passed it then, Brian, when you were on there?
We didn't have an ordinance. If I remember, I mean, Adrian, you remember way back. I mean, I don't believe there was an animal ordinance of any nature at that point, and we passed the aggressive you know, if you bite, you know, if a dog bites, they're to leave the town. I do know that. It's one strike and you're out. But at that point, I don't know why we put the pit bull in there.
I think it was part of the overall ordinance recodification,
Mm-hmm.
and
It was kind of done at that time. And I haven't actually heard, there was quite a few years, several years ago, there was a lot of press about this being, you know, overturned in different communities. And it was, you know, I don't know the statistics of how many communities don't allow pit bulls now. But I know a lot of that was taken care of several years ago. A lot of communities just, you know, for the very reason that, I mean, we have so many different dogs that will bite. You know, like when I go into an exam room, I'm pretty sure they'll all bite me. You know, unless they prove otherwise. But you know, you can list so many different breeds that can be dangerous. I just think that the singling out of the pit bull at this point is not right.
So how many, I'm going to guess you have pit bulls that are clients.
I do.
Do you?
A lot.
Do you have a number? I mean, are they
You know,
just?
I was going to run that report, and I did not. And the other thing I was going to do is I was going to dig in how many I thought had Anamosa addresses, and there's a lot of them. I mean, and there's a lot of pit bulls in Anamosa, or pit bull influence. I saw 2 puppies today that were 16 weeks old, and I said, what breed? You know, because it's hard to tell a lot of times. And the guy said he had them genetically tested, and there was they were 50% pit bull, and I would have never known it. You know, so it's very difficult to enforce, and it's very, very difficult to, you know, it's just difficult. And there's a lot of really, really nice pit bulls in this world. All of them? No. A lot of them? Yeah.
somebody over there, Brian.
Sure. Go ahead.
Hey, so, in your professional opinion, 2 questions. Does this all work? Breed-specific legislation work? And are pit bulls more dangerous than any other breed? In your opinion?
In my opinion, I asked my associate veterinarians. I said, "Do you fear which breeds do you fear the most? You know, if a dog is being presented to you, which ones do you fear the most?" And my associates did not pick pit bulls.
And do you think that breed-specific legislation works?
No.
On the topic of does this work, you mentioned it's just hard to tell if a dog has pit in it. If you want to just pass this around, I printed out some photos, and all of these dogs are half pit. And if you were a shelter or somebody who just picked up some puppies and you had to decide what happened to them, looking through those pictures, how would you decide? There's just no, I mean, other than just looking at it and guessing, there's really no way to enforce it. And I think the vicious dog ordinance that's already in place kind of takes care of the whole
And
spectrum.
that's my opinion also. The aggressive dog ordinance should take care of it. It doesn't. I mean, I think the last kind of bad bite situation I was aware of in the city was a boxer. Boxers, you know, who thinks about that?
I also went back through all the library records, because the library keeps track of all the newspapers from back to the 1800s, and I just searched for Anamosa dog bite back to the 1950s. Other than just random police records that say a dog bit somebody with no other information, I found 2 pit bull bites. One was back in 1989, which I was 2 years old back then. And the other was a disputed scratch or bite. Somebody said it bit, somebody said it was a scratch, and nothing came of it. At that time of that scratch/slash bite, Sheriff Robber recommended the city to research DNA kits to enforce the laws. That was 5 years ago.
think it's very difficult to enforce, and I don't think it's right. I honestly don't think it's right.
We appreciate your professional
I have one
opinion
more
on this.
question.
Thank you.
Yes.
So this is, I got some statistics from dog bites from the ASPCA, American Veterinarian Medical Association. And I just want to see if you agree.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It depends.
As far as there's evidence to suggest that things lead to dog bites rather than the breed.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like with this, it says 97% of all dog bites were unaltered, so unspayed or unneutered dogs. 76 were unneutered male dogs. 84% were abused or neglected, and 78% were not pets but guard dogs, breed dogs, or yard dogs. And 90% of all dog bites were from dogs that spent the majority of their life tethered, which basically to a
Yeah,
chain.
it goes back to, responsible pet ownership. And you can still be a responsible pet owner and have your dog bite somebody. I'm not saying that, and I'm not standing here saying that a pit bull could cause serious damage in town tomorrow. I don't know that, as could a lot of different breeds. But I don't think it's sound to limit based upon the breed. And it's, when you have responsible pet ownership, it's going to help. When you avoid situations, that's so key so often is that when you know a dog has a tendency, you need to avoid situations. You need to keep them out of that situation. And that's what responsible pet ownership is, as much as possible.
The pit bulls have a very bad name to them because of the pit bull fighting, but a lot of that, they were trained to be that way. That can be with any breed of a dog. You're gonna crop their ears to make them look like a certain way. You're gonna put certain collars on them to make them, a certain way. You're gonna hold them back and get them, and that can be with any breed. That's my opinion with that.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, well.
Good luck, y'all.
See ya.
Enjoy
Are
your
you sure there's not a street assessment going on?
I know, right?
See, and you started this 12 years ago.
Huh?
You started this 12 years ago.
I did, yeah.
He wasn't, there's more than one council member.
Well, he was part of it.
Thanks, Don.
See you
Thanks,
later.
Brian.
Thanks. 5.0 proclamations, none. Council action items, 6.0 community betterment. 6.1 discussion and possible action on first reading of ordinance amending chapter 55 of the city code, animal protection and control to drop breed specific prohibition.
I make a motion we drop breed specific to our ordinance and go with stricter, aggressive dogs.
Motion to approve this ordinance, first reading is what you're saying?
First by Betty,
I'll second it.
second by Rich. And it's,
As part of discussion now.
yeah,
I'm all for doing this, but one of the things I would like to see us implement here at the city, how much is a dog license? $3? Is that right? $3 or $4. $3 or $4 to license your dog. That's nothing. However, I would like to see more dogs licensed. Can we have, what's the fine if you have a dog not licensed?
Well, if it's a simple misdemeanor, it's $65. Could be a municipal infraction, $750.
So how would you know which one it would be?
We would probably ask the council for
To
direction.
decide, so I say we have stricter unlicensed dogs and be more lax and not have breed specific. I'd like to see it go in that direction. If it's all it costs is a couple bucks to have your dog licensed, then at least.
Chris Collins, 507 East First Street. Right here. This is 51 signatures, 47 are from Anamosa. Those were only passed out a week ago. 2 of them got thrown away, so 2 of those were only up for 3 days through a snowstorm. You guys will swing here. I actually addressed the issue with the dog licenses, and I've spoke to every humane society within a 45-mile radius that would all be willing to register these dogs upon adoption. And they just need the form or the waiver or whatever from you guys so they can run it through their legal department and make sure it's completely 100% like they can do it. And not a single one of them was opposed to it.
And I'm not talking just pit bulls, I mean all dogs.
Correct, all dogs.
Okay.
Yep, every
Yeah.
dog that got adopted. Yep. So that
And I
would
mean
be.
even those that are in people's homes today not licensed, I mean all dogs.
Yep,
as you know.
absolutely.
Okay.
And then this might be a question for Adrian, and feel free to interrupt me if I'm mistaken, but currently as it sits right now, if you're cited for having a pit bull, the city makes the owner pay for a DNA test. And correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, but I think that's probably the only law at a federal, state, or local level where a city forces you to pay to prove your innocence. It's a violation of due process. That is saying you are guilty before you're innocent. And you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's a debatable issue.
Right.
You're talking due process. Our ordinance says if the dog has the appearance of a pit bull or a pit bull cross, that then the burden then shifts. It would be the city's responsibility to establish the primary, that the dog looks or exhibits the appearance of a pit bull or a pit bull cross, then the burden would shift. Now, if it were a criminal case, there may be more due process issues, but if it were a municipal infraction, where the standard of proof is less than beyond a reasonable doubt, I'm not sure.
But it is a debatable issue, correct? You can't say.
It certainly could be debated.
And then just two other.
I have one question while we're on that
Yes.
topic. If we lift the ban, it's irrelevant, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And the only other issue I wanted to address was just, we had talked about emotional support dogs, because under this, like if a renter, a landlord can still say, hey, no pit bulls here, except for cases of service dogs or emotional support dogs. I don't know if you ever dealt with this at all, but the emotional support dog case is Warren versus Del Vista Towers condos. That was the outline in 2015 that says a city, state, or federal law cannot take into account a dog breed. No preconceived notion about the breed for emotional support dog, which I've tried to present to 3 people, and it got nothing went of it. ADA come out as 2015 Americans with Disability Act. Same thing. They tried to put down a guy's service dog, and they did in Denver.
If I may, and I don't, you're jumping between a service dog and a support dog. I grant you a service dog, the restriction on those is preempted by federal legislation, the ADA you mentioned.
Yes.
But there's a definition of that. That's a
Yes. person
with a disability who has a dog trained to address that disability.
Yes.
When you're talking emotional support dog, I don't know of any regulation,
Regulation as far as.
any federal or state legislation that says an emotional support dog rises to the same level of a service
It
dog.
doesn't. It covers you in housing, not on a sidewalk, not in a parking lot, not anywhere else, but it does.
Okay.
And that was the Warren versus Del Vista Towers.
And do you have a citation for that? Warren, what was that versus who?
Versus Del Vista Towers condos, and that originated out of Florida. So just, if the ban's lifted and landlords still say, hey, no pit bulls, which a lot of them do.
And that was a Florida case?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did we have a second?
We had a first and a second.
So the motion, please provide some clarity here, Tammy. The motion and second is to accept the ordinance as it was submitted in the packet, correct?
Correct.
So a yes vote means to dissolve current ordinance and adopt this ordinance in its place. A no vote is to not adopt the ordinance in the packet. Is that
Correct.
correct? All right, thank you.
And it's a roll vote.
Rich,
Yes.
Can I ask a question on this issue? My
Quickly,
issue-
get up and identify yourself.
My name is John Broderson. I just want to clarify, if you're talking about registering dogs, what if somebody from another community, I got a sister from Indiana, comes across, they bring their dog with them, what are the priorities for that dog if she's got it with her inside the city limits?
My thing in making sure your dogs are licensed is for the residents of Anamosa. If my children come for the weekend and they bring their dog, I think it would be kind of hard if they show up on Friday night and leave Sunday night that I would get in and get it registered. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, exactly.
I don't know that that's,
That
we
would
can
be-
enforce that. I
My
mean,
kids bring their dog registration and vet report every time they come.
have good dog owning families.
Just have that and it's proof it had its
That's
vaccination.
exactly right.
So I'm just talking about the residents that live here in Anamosa that would have to follow our city ordinance as a resident to have that.
okay.
All right, moving on to vote.
Kay,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rod,
No.
Cody,
Yes.
Betty.
Yes,
Possible waiver of the second and third reading.
I would have to.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, I'd
All
rather
right,
not.
well, I
waive it.
just
Thank
oh,
you.
yeah,
wanted to ask.
Yeah, yeah.
yep.
All right. 6.2, discussion and possible action on possible waiver of subdivision regulations, section 166.07 to 166.12 for plat of survey parcels 2018-13 and 2018-14 as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So
I-
moved.
Just for clarification,
Yeah,
everyone
I
understands
was
why
at-
this is on the agenda.
Yes. Can we get that?
Pardon me?
Like, I'm not sure exactly.
The reason it's on the agenda is, by definition, a subdivision is two splits creating 3 parcels or more from an original parcel. Correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian.
Well, you've got it.
Then, in this particular instance, this original parcel has been split. This last split that you're considering now, this current split, is at least the 3rd split. We went back, it was almost, I think it was the 4th actually, but it's been done over a period of time and not by definition as a true subdivision. It was just parceled off, family members, piece by piece by piece. And this creates splits that makes a 0 lot line duplex on that property. So this went to planning and zoning. They look at it and say, does this need to follow all the subdivision regulations as stated in those sections of the code? It's pretty extensive. It applies more to a true subdivision from point A to point B. This didn't go from point A to point B simply. So they reviewed it and decided that it's an established parcel with a duplex on it and therefore does not need to go through all the subdivision requirements.
And this isn't anything like that, all the neighboring around it has to agree or anything like that,
No.
okay?
So I have first by Cody,
I'll second it.
second by Rich.
But I do have one thing. I talked to Doug a little bit on the way in, just to make sure. I know we've got existing storm sewer and drainage easement through there, but there is a fire hydrant that is located up onto his property, and I just wanna make sure that we have an easement to that fire hydrant. I don't know if we do or not, but since it's there, I wanna make sure we've got an easement to maintain it.
Is it within the road right away?
No,
No.
it's up into his property.
It's way back.
Yeah.
Off the street.
Randy?
I'm Randy Williams from MS Consultants here for Doug, with Doug. I don't think we ever created easement on that, but we certainly could do that on this plat because it's not recorded yet. I know we covered the drainage, and we gave a 60 by something for a turnaround there at the time. But if there's not one, which I could research back from my stuff, because if there was, I probably did it. We could add it to this plat and create that easement at this point if we want to.
Well, I think this would be the time to do it.
Yeah. I could certainly address that before this is recorded.
Okay.
You just talked about a 60 by something turnaround.
This area right here was given to the city during the process when we split these up. And the intent there was for the city to build a hammerhead turnaround, but I've been told, they decided not to do that.
It was my understanding there wasn't enough room with what we had to do that. Is that correct?
For some reason, it was not built for that. I don't know why, but we did give that at the time, which covered part of the water main that extended up, and I guess was my point with that right of way that was given to the city. But if it extended beyond that, we can certainly cover that with a separate easement.
So is the plan for further development in that area? Is
Doug would have to speak to that. I have no idea.
Really, there's only one lot on the right-hand side, Rod, or on the east side of that street. It's that parcel, I don't remember the parcel number, but
This parcel right here does not have a building on it. His duplex sits right there.
this is the most recent duplex
Right.
construction?
This is an empty lot right here.
And this is the one that's bringing in to this third split.
That was one of the parcels that was created that pushed us into the third or fourth split, whichever way you want to call it.
Any further questions for Randy?
Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Any further discussion?
Is there anyone in council to speak on behalf of the planning and zoning?
No, Penny included the minutes from the meeting. That's all she
I'm looking at
included.
them.
Right, there really wasn't a lot of discussion. I was at that meeting. There wasn't a lot to be discussed. They didn't discuss it.
Which concerns me, that there wasn't much discussion.
Well, Penny explained it pretty well to them in advance, what the purpose of it was, and explained to them that, it's pretty common for someone to come in with a parcel request to split a duplex. It happens all the time. This particular one does not sit within an existing subdivision, so I think that's what triggered the question. I mean, it certainly could be accomplished by changing the name of the plat to a subdivision and hiring some attorneys to make up some papers, and bring it back as a subdivision, but it seems to be excess for what we're trying to accomplish, I think, in my opinion.
I'm gonna guess having that lot there built on and finished will fix other issues in that neighborhood. I think it will be, overall, at the end result, would be a win-win.
It possibly could, yes.
Yes. I
Where's
think
the
so.
access to this gonna be? I mean, I know where it's built up on Teresa, but is it gonna be off Holt or off Teresa to get to this?
It will be off Teresa, sir.
Teresa?
Yeah.
Once this parcel is completed, I've already started drafting an easement plat to make sure that all three parcels that come off of the end of the street have access across the other lots, but I have to kind of establish these parcels first.
This is how John. Teresa, and it's right in here, because the fire hydrant's right there.
Okay.
Thanks again.
And the first and second.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 6.3, discussion and possible action approving electric line easement granted to Interstate Power and Light Company by the city of Anamosa.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Have a nice night.
Did you have any questions regarding this easement request?
This is the same one we,
It's following through that same area, yes. And I checked with the water and sewer and streets, and they do have a water line to the east of that, on the right side, on the east side. But they will be doing a locate for that, so I talked to the gentleman from, ITC and Alliant, and they'll do their locates and shouldn't be an issue.
So water and sewer goes through, is currently there?
No, there's nothing in that easement area, but they will be crossing underneath, Elm Street from Cemetery Road on the other side and going it'll be directly connecting with the easement area. They're gonna stay in the right of way on the other side, but on this side, they need to get on the city property, that's why they need that easement. And right at the corner, there is a water main, and they will be going around or above that water main, so they won't be bothering that water, next to it, but they won't be bothering it.
So
That's why they're doing the locate.
Right.
It's right at the corner.
there's no plan to put utilities through
Got it.
there that would be compromised if we permit. We've given plenty of foresight, forward thinking that there will not be any need. Yes, we've given due diligence to the foresight, or no, we haven't.
Well,
Not
they had to
according
call
to the
in
department
locates.
heads. There really is nothing in that area that small area that we're gonna need.
And that contractor had to call locates in, so
is this the
they're
same,
avoiding it all.
is this the same area where we have to move an electrical pole and,
That's fixed.
Yeah.
but it's the same area, the same area?
But they're boring, the way I understand it, they're boring down below the utilities,
Mhm.
so it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay,
And we didn't have to move an electrical. It was
They
Well,
dug
their
it.
wrongdoing, and they paid for it. So.
right, but I'm just saying it's the same area the other issue was. It's all good.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did we have a
You
first
don't
and
have
a
a
second?
first
Oh,
and
wait
a
a
second
minute.
yet.
Oh, well, there you have it.
Then why,
I'll make the motion to approve the easement.
Second.
first by Cody, second by John. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? See, I thought you guys. 6.4, discussion and possible action on follow-up and update to previous nuisance at 106 East Main Street.
Good evening. Kind of recap, back in November 13th meeting, Doug and Casey Wortman and Tom and Kim Durgan were before you to discuss the progress they're making with their buildings post-fire. There was a nuisance filed for the smell of smoke and mildew emitting from one building to the other. Doug stood up here and gave a presentation of the progress that he was making, and I believe Kim was here that evening as well. Doug stated about 90% of the roof repair had been done. Replacement windows and doors were on order, which they have been put in
They look great.
since that meeting. He had 10% of the debris to be removed as of today. Speaking with Doug last week, he says that 10% had been removed. The chimney that was discussed that night as well, I believe you said that's not going to get taken care of until the weather warms up and tuck pointing becomes more of a feasible option at that point. I did have an opportunity to go on both properties here last week and then once again today. The smell is substantially less. It is still there. I don't know if it's because the temperature is 12 degrees at the time I went in and it's kind of freezing everything in there. It's hard to say what's going to happen when it warms up, but both properties are making improvements to move forward. I did invite both here to kind of give their updates on how they want to proceed from this date forward. So if you have any questions, I can try to answer them, or I believe if they'd like to address or answer any questions, they're here to do that as well. Any questions?
What the city had asked to be done as far as progress, so dating back to the November meeting.
Correct.
Has that been met?
The windows are in. Doug said 10% of the debris that was still remaining is now gone. The common wall, they have been working together on that, and you said that was completed here? Just about completed. There's been substantial... On the first floor, okay. There's been a lot of work done on that common wall since we last met in November as well, so
And both parties are happy with the progress?
that's for them to answer.
I mean,
It sounds like there's communication has increased since the last meeting. I can say that.
good,
So
that's the first.
whether
step.
or not it's
And as a council, we really didn't give much direction on what we wanted to see done. Or-
reviewing the minutes, the nuisance was put on hold for them to continue the work as they were doing at that time, and then a reevaluation be done at this meeting. So
I think didn't we ask Doug what you think you could have done, and he told us and we accepted it?
Right.
Is that how it was?
as far as my involvement, my nuisance was put on hold. So what you guys asked of them, it sounds like Doug has completed the, minus the chimney, but the weather is not conducive to do that work. The common wall, they're working together on it. But as far as the nuisance, smoke, smell, mildew, given the cold temperatures, it's hard for me to gauge, and smell is a very subjective thing anyway to determine where it's coming from, so, but it's gonna be an ongoing project for both parties until
I
completion,
think both properties look good,
so.
looking good.
Make no mistake, though, there's still a lot of work to be done. On the outside, it doesn't look so bad, but on the inside, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Look at other communities, Doug, that took 4 or 5 years to get it done.
I hear you.
Do you guys have any direction for me at this point, reference the nuisance side of things?
Well, I guess my question would be for them, if they want to pursue anything, or if you're good with where things stand right now, or?
Yeah, I think that we're, again, making progress, and, the main concern with the mildew on that wall, that's been removed, and they replaced all of the insulation. And we've got that first floor common wall, pretty much done. It's just now sealing up a lot of the holes, primarily it's the smoke smell. So once they mitigate that in their building, and we do the same in ours, that should take care of it, but it's just moving forward and making sure that we get all of that.
So I'm hearing the nuisance can be considered closed at this time.
Yeah,
As
still
far as the
smoke smell?
Right.
Right.
We still need to make sure that we are on top of that.
So now Travis needs some type of direction from us.
I
Do we
guess-
put a time on it and it will be abated by this?
Is
Date?
there any way of knowing if the smoke smells only from the one building and not from both? We mitigated ours, we have no smoke smell, so,
So you brought up in the November 13th meeting that
Yes.
you guys had a professional come in, I believe you stated Service Master.
Serpro.
Okay,
I would say.
they used an oil-based chemical that kind of locked everything in. I don't know if that's what it's gonna take, I don't know, but at this point, it sounds like, other than just tearing out, reconstructing, there's been no chemical treatment to abate that smell. Maybe that's what it would take, but once again, that's,
I mean, I feel as long as they're both moving forward and they're both making progress and they're both getting it done, it's a win-win for them and for the community and everybody. Could we actually say whose smoke smell you're smelling? It would be
I
hard.
can't stand before you guys and say, because both buildings are, once again, in a different state of completion,
Correct.
both still, so.
You can't
I
say
would
it's
say-
that building I smell, not this one.
If both buildings, if one treated and one didn't, well, then we can kind of maybe limit it to that, but as just stated, neither building has been chemically treated, so it's hard telling at this point.
So I can't imagine they'd go this far and not finish, so.
Oh, we've done tremendous work since we met last, so it's just, it's a process.
I would recommend we put it on pause for a couple of months and revisit the smoke smell. I do think we're moving forward, we're working together, and that's primarily it.
Another 90 days.
Let's get some warm weather in there, reevaluate, so I'd say, how's June, first meeting in June sound? I mean, I get some warm temperatures in there, give some time for maybe the chimney to get completed and anything else that they had said. First meeting in June.
Are you guys good with that, Tom?
Well,
Revisit it in June, yeah, if that makes sense.
okay.
I make a motion, June. What's the date for the first meeting in June? Remember.
You can just say the first council meeting in
Okay.
June.
Well, if you can make that work.
Do you have any expectations for either one for that meeting to be completed? Because you had, you did discuss in the 13th of different things. You had made mention in the minutes that you'd like to see that debris be removed. Do you have any direction of that sort you'd like to discuss now so they have
I
some?
guess I would ask them where they think they will be at, both of them.
I'd like to have no more smoke smell by that point.
Anywhere. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. So whether that be some sort of professional chemical treatment by the first meeting in June?
Are you
Right.
guys both good with that?
Can I just say something? They may wanna check ahead of time. We've had stuff here before, and I don't know if it has to be a certain temperature for them to come up and treat a certain. Just so you guys know.
I think that's why they're going into June, so it's warm.
Just to give you guys a heads up.
And if you have a professional done it, we had ours, the fire happened in February, we had ours done in March.
Was it warm enough then?
They were,
By all
they're
means,
the
guys,
professionals, not me.
if you wanna address something, please. I don't wanna speak for you
So
by
is
any
that
means.
part of
I
your
can only
motion,
attest to
Cody?
what I
So
know.
no smoke smell?
Yeah,
Like,
for all the
that's the
neighbors.
goal. Was there, did you second that?
I'll second it.
Okay.
First by Cody, second by Rich.
There needs to be something definitive.
Bring
Is
it
that,
back.
Tom, is that something you believe is attainable from your side?
How long do you want this meeting to go on?
It's just a matter of.
My
we need to make
reservations-
sure that all of the openings are closed up and that each building is mitigated for the smoke smell.
My reservations are to be putting a milestone out there that's just not attainable for either party, so.
That's why I
You know, I'm asking the two of you, Wortman's is, if your side requires the most activity, they sit in a limbo state until you can shore yours up. And then we're asking them to expedite immediately. You know, is it attainable for both parties?
I think the goal should be, at least for us, to make sure that we've got, to Tom's point, all the penetrations taken care of, both on the lower wall and on the upper wall. Regardless if it smells like smoke in our building or not, that's not a nuisance to anybody else, as long as it's not penetrating into somebody else's building. So the goal is to get it sealed off, so it's not, if there is smoke in our building, there is, so be it. As long as it doesn't transfer into anybody else.
So you're good. Am I hearing that?
How's your building?
You know, it's gotten cold, you don't smell.
But you've mitigated.
I am, yes, we mitigated good. and it was Serpro or one of them came in and shellacked everything. You know, obviously, with them hauling stuff out, you know, it was in the dumpster, you walk outside,
Correct.
you could smell it. I mean, I'm just personally, I'm happy that they've saved the buildings. I'm just extremely happy that the buildings have been saved and they look as good as they are. Would I like to see progress made faster? Obviously, but, you know, you move on, I guess. You go with what you got. They, both places have made progress, and I'm extremely happy for both of them.
They look great.
They do.
Yours does too.
Well, my wife is unhappy with our windows now.
Tom's a window man.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, but it's like this. As long as they seal it, and then me and Doug have talked about it, sealing, there's multiple holes penetrating through there that need to be sealed, not only for smoke, but fire protection later. And as John just mentioned, Todd and Betty had done the shellacking of their building to seal it. I think we'll do it. We had no smoke smell prior to them closing their building up. Once they closed the building up, it forced it into ours.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 Opposed? 7.0, public safety. 7.1, motion to approve the renewal of beer and liquor license, renewal of Class C beer permit with Sunday sale privileges, Tapkins Convenience Plus.
So moved.
Second.
First by Rod, second by Cody. All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 8.0, Public Works, none. 9.0, Finance. 9.1, discussion and possible action on resolution setting the date for public hearing on the proposed annual budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
First by Cody, second by Rod. And it's a roll vote.
Kay,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Rich.
Yes.
9.2, discussion and possible action on resolution approving the hiring and setting salary of part-time employees for the Lawrence Community Center for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
First by Betty, second by Rich. Any discussion? And it's a roll vote.
John,
Yes.
Rod,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Kay.
Yes.
9.3, discussion and possible action on approving the purchase option price on the 2017 end loader finance contract in the amount of $101,918.27 and authorize the interim city administrator to sign and send the required notification.
Move to approve.
Second.
First by Rich, second by Cody. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. 10.0, City Administrator's Report.
Just touching on a situation from the recent snowfall event over the last week. We did have declare a snow emergency. I'm going to read to you how we stated it. I'm not laughing, it's not funny, but 2/8 of 18, snow emergency in effect, 3 p.m. Thursday until 12 a.m. parentheses, midnight, Saturday. No parking on city streets during this time. I got a call Saturday, actually it was on Facebook, regarding someone getting a ticket, confusion by that person, and continued conversation. We posted this on the website too. Channel 9 did remove it as of midnight Friday. That's where the confusion came. So I believe people, and I can see by looking at it, and the citizens and also the media interpret it as midnight Friday or 12 a.m. Saturday. So I immediately let the police chief know the scenario, what happened. I gave him direction. It was 10 or 11 o'clock. I was working, I believe, at the time, and I asked Bob not to give any more tickets from that point forward, even though technically we wanted it to go till midnight Saturday. We were supposed to get 1 to 2 more inches approximately. So rather than add to the mix, I just said let it alone the rest of the time. And then I also said that any tickets he wrote between midnight Friday and that time that I spoke to him, that was the police chief's discretion to what to do with those tickets. Personally, we can't, I mean, my understanding is we don't direct the police chief what to do with tickets if they were written under the ordinance. That's his discretion. My opinion is I don't feel you should enforce those tickets because of the confusion between 12 midnight and Saturday. That's my personal opinion and professional opinion for interpretation. And for future reference, this, in talking to Greg, who's back from his time off today, on his way through, and also to Eric, I'm suggesting that rather than use any type of 12 a.m., 12 p.m., midnight, noon, stay away from the 12s. For clarification, do like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, so we're not getting this confusion anymore.
You can use 12:01 or 11:59
Yeah. but-
and say the date.
Yeah, I
Say
just think,
Sunday,
I think the
whatever.
date needs to be
I think we
included
just
in
need
there.
to stay away from that 12
Well,
totally,
but if you go
because
12:01 a.m. and do February 5th or whatever, that sets it on that date.
Greg said that hour wouldn't make a difference if you wanted to do it at 11 a.m., 11 p.m. He said that that's not gonna make or break the snow emergency. So, just for clarification, and I wanted to let the council know, so. That's all I had.
So how many tickets were written in that time frame?
Saturday morning, approximately 55. I might add that all of those tickets were cars that had not been moved after the snowplow had gone through or the streets had not been cleared. There were no citations issued to any car to where the road had already been cleared curb to curb.
And the flip side of that is, are we telling people they can go off of what is on the news media as opposed to looking at our website or other avenues? Do you see what I'm saying? We're given it, you know, so I could toss a coin and go either way on what I think.
Unfortunately, you put it out there to this isn't a criticism of news media by any means, but.
No, we would never do that.
It's not a criticism, there's just a lot of things to keep track of in our technology and so on, but, there is no perfect system, unfortunately.
No.
But I think putting it on our website is probably one of the key things, if we let the public know that that's where that's at, if they wanna confirm it one way or the other, if it's during non-business hours.
And the police department's Facebook page, like any of that stuff, the LCC, any of it.
But some people don't have it. The only thing they have is the media, you know, that's.
Can we speak on this subject while you're talking about it, or not?
This was just a report, I would
know, that's why
do
I'm
it under
asking
the
you.
council with business on items not on the agenda.
Bob, how many of the 55 citations have you decided to waive?
I was
Any
going to
none?
get some input from the council tonight, if you don't mind. I realize this is not on the agenda, but I don't have a problem either way. I think the cars should have been up off the travel portion for snow removal, but I understand that the miscommunication or the confusion in the communication, you know, if the council would like to see them dismissed, or if the council wants to leave them left alone, I will go with whatever the council says.
So the tickets were written on Saturday, but the cars might have been sitting there on Thursday or Friday.
I cannot say that right now.
Well, if they've been plowed around 2 or 3 days, hit them with street storage after the snow
48 hours?
emergency, yeah.
You know, whatever the council would like to see done.
Why don't you take care of those 55?
Okay.
Make them.
Take care of them as in how.
Yeah.
What?
Well, take care of them as in how.
Void them. But then I'd go back around and see which cars hadn't been moved and give them a street storage.
And you're saying those 55 were written
Well,
sometime in the early morning hours of Saturday,
After 6 a.m.
after 6 a.m.
Yes,
Well, each ticket has a date and a time on it
correct.
when they were written.
That's correct.
So there are ones that fall within that time frame of when we were still in the snow emergency, because it would have a,
There were considerably more written the days prior to that, and those will not obviously be affected.
Well, if they were still in the snow emergency, then leave those alone and void the ones that were after it went off.
Very good.
if they were questionable after the
After the
miscommunication,
12 midnight on Friday.
yes, voiding all of them, I really have a problem with.
I understood he said
Well,
he wrote
with-
all 55 after 6 a.m.
No, they
Saturday.
were,
Yeah.
They were written on Saturday morning, yeah, so it was after midnight.
The officer that wrote the tickets started his shift at 6 a.m. Saturday morning. And the last ticket he wrote was like at 10:30, 10:45, something like that.
Wow.
A lot of tickets and
Yeah.
he was busy. Hours.
For like, that's over 10 an hour. Busy.
11.0 mayor and council reports.
Well, got landfill. Dale and I went, the only thing really there, they're still arguing with the gentleman that has the land, the rental. He's violated the agreement. They're gonna let him put his crop in this year. If he violates again, they will take him to court. And emergency management, they're gonna have a practice somewhere down Cedar County with train wrecks and stuff. That'll be this spring. 911, they're gonna upgrade the towers in Olin and around by Amber to upgrade with the radios Bob was talking. That's over 30,000 for each one of them to get them up, so they'll have better communications, all emergency services.
Anybody else? 12.0 public with business with the council on items not on the agenda.
Mike Dearborn, 405 North Division. I was hoping Greg would be here, because I'm going to address the snow removal. I own and maintain multiple properties downtown, and my question is, during these emergencies, what do you expect the merchants, property owners, and the customers to these stores, what do you expect them to do? And the reason I ask that is I understand we have to leave room, we gotta clean this Main Street, because that's top priority. But these people come to work first thing that morning, see snow emergency, what do? They're trying to get in the city parking lots. They're just full of snow.
except for this one right back here that the city employees got. You could eat your lunch off the pavement back there. Now, is it too much to ask maybe to have the tonners with the smaller blades to come through and at least swipe those city parking lots so these people got somewhere to go? I'm talking about all the people, the store owners, their customers. I mean, do you expect the whole town to shut down for this 2-day snow emergency that, you know, snow emergency to me is 8 to 10 to 12 inches. Now granted, I mean, our guy's not here. I think this would have been a good time for him to be here after a snow emergency. But I would have liked to also ask him, what's this new method of tandem plows, for crying out loud? I'm down there clearing a lot of properties downtown, and I'm watching what I see as 4 snowplows. I didn't even know we had 4 large snowplows. I thought we only had 3, but we have 4. They're going in tandem, 4 in a row. First one obviously middle, next one a little bit over, next one a little bit over. I watched 2 pass this on one side of the street. First 3 plows were just sending sparks up. There was no snow being cleared. 4th one, which should have been up to the curb, was 4 foot from the curb. And that's how it remained until early this morning.
I don't know.
Now, I can't imagine I'm the only person that was upset. Tammy, how many calls did you get? About the crap, poor job of snow removal. Not just in the downtown, in the residential too.
We had 2 areas that we got calls on primarily. One was on a dead-end street on South Davis Street, and the other one was on a turnaround at Lynn Court. We got multiple calls on those 2 areas. Other than that, we didn't get anything at all. Penny and I, those are the main calls we got. We got multiple calls on that.
If you had more time, if I had more time, I'd give you a whole list of areas in town. And not just from me, but from people calling me and just saying, what is going on? I understand, I'm just a dumb citizen that doesn't know how to plow snow, but let's have a little common sense here. Okay, I mean, a snow emergency, I understand. But if you're gonna clear these streets and the cars are out of the way, it should be to the curbs, not even close.
It makes it hard for them to do it downtown with nodes that they put in with streetscapes.
I understand that, but there's lots of space in between those nodes that were, I'm not exaggerating, it's that far from the curb. And then when they do go to the curb, that last plow, I've watched them, they're going 30 mile an hour down Main Street, and guess where that snow ends up? Right up against the doors, for crying out loud, not just over the curb, but up against the buildings. That's fun to remove. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
John Broderson, I'd like to speak on the same issue, basically about the same line as Mike. But does the city not have like a skid loader or something that they could move the snow and put it in piles until it could be removed? The idea of just pushing it in furrows up against the sidewalk so the business owners, I mean, you got no place to push it but back out on the street, so it's one day we push it on the street, the next morning, you know, when the snow plows come along, they push it back up on the sidewalks. I don't know if the city's got a plan for snow removal, but if there isn't, I think one should be drawn up and get Greg and some of the property owners to discuss what could be done. But it's just ridiculous to stand there and scoop it off and then have the snow plow come along and spray it all right back up on. And it isn't just on Main Street, it's up North Ford and up by City Hall here too. Especially since we got no parking in the alley anymore, which the property owners always push that out. So, and the parking here has been unbelievable. I mean, anybody that got out of the car this last week could not get to the sidewalk without walking down to a corner. And they had the corner scooped off pretty well, the city did. But that was the only way. You couldn't wade through the furrows that were pushed up. It's just ridiculous. for a city the size of Anamosa, when you can go to Olin or Wyoming or any of the small towns, and the sidewalks and the streets are clean, to come to Anamosa, it's an embarrassment. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Doug Workman, just outside of town, but I'll comment on the same thing, only because I work a lot in Monticello, so I have the opportunity to go to Monticello just about every day, but Sunday. They didn't have this problem. I don't know what's different. And I know it didn't used to be like that, I'm gonna say 6, 7 years ago. I don't know, it's because of use of
I think
bobcats.
Monticello loads it right into trucks with a blower. I believe.
Actually, what they do is they go down Main Street and they take it from the curb to the inside of the street and then go along with an end loader and they pick it up and they dump it in dump trucks, accents. So it's a combination of accent and the city.
Yeah.
working together.
And Anamosa used to do something like that too, with
It used to be
Rickless.
great.
Yeah.
Put it to the middle.
Even with heavy snowfalls, it used to be great.
And it is hard once you get your sidewalk cleared.
Cedar Rapids
And
does
then
it
they come and
downtown.
put it back on the sidewalk. Now it's really hard. You can't, you know, if you get out there and shovel right away, it's clean and clear. But by the time they push it back up on your sidewalk, now it's hard to, it's like packed in and you have customers that crawl up over the bank, somebody's gonna get.
Yeah, well, I'm with Mike and John. We're a lot better than that.
So you're,
We ought to be.
are you saying that this weekend was not an isolated incident? This was
I
basically
would
a
say
trend
in
for
my
snow
opinion,
removal?
the last probably 4 or 5 years, it's
Been that way.
been bad. It didn't used to be.
And honestly, we've experienced much worse snowstorms than this and had better results.
We used to have a skid loader with a blower on it. John, do you remember when we,
Yeah.
that might be something we wanna look at again.
Well, the only thing that's there is Saturday morning when I was working downtown, I don't even know who the gentleman is, but he's one that keeps going up and down sidewalks with that four-wheeler and a little blade. He took the time, went into city streets on the whole stretch on the north side of Maine, and he cleared that whole curb all the way down to Kitty's with his little four-wheeler and a blade, 3-foot wide. Now, if he could do it with such equipment, I would think our city with the heavy equipment could do a better job.
Tammy, have you been taking notes to address some of these complaints with the streets crew?
Have I been taking notes? Yes. And will I talk to Greg about it? Yes.
Thank
You
you.
can't change the way snow removal is occurring in the downtown area, including the parking lots for accessibility. Means we are still within the season.
Yes, I will address it with him and
So
see if he can
hopefully
come up with some plans and readdress it with the council.
the concerns of the citizens tonight will go away.
Back to 12.0, public with business with the council on items not on the agenda.
I'm Tammy Seeley, 117 North Ford Street, and I'm here to address the council in reference to the $750,000 lawsuit that was settled and the continued employment of the chief of police. The city has an obligation to provide a workplace that is free of harassment and discrimination. Trying to understand your point of view, and I'm wondering, once you heard the allegations of discrimination, if you could outline what your process was, what your response was to that, so that we can better understand your thinking.
She never did come to me with any allegations.
So was there ever an investigation by the city?
She went to Al, I believe, and he investigated it, and he's not here now, so I don't know
Adrian,
how. Or what?
You've been involved with this from basically the onset. Would you care to address Tammy's questions?
Well, then City Administrator Alan Johnson did receive a complaint from Officer Ford. He did meet with her. He did issue a summary report. Officer Ford chose to file a civil rights complaint with the Civil Rights Commission. The Civil Rights Commission granted her what's called a right to sue letter. She did file suit. From the time the civil rights complaint was filed, the matter was handled by the city's insurer, EMC Insurance, and their counsel, primary counsel, was Matt Novak from Cedar Rapids. So, from the point of the civil rights complaint being filed, the matter was referred to the city's insurer, and they were responsible for defending the city in both the civil rights complaint and the litigation that followed.
Is there a procedure or policies in place when such allegations are placed? Does the city have something in writing that you follow?
Well, as part of the personnel policy, if you believe there is discrimination, it is brought to the attention of your supervisor, and then ultimately it ends up with the city administrator, or in the absence of the city administrator, would end up with the mayor, and then ultimately the council if it goes beyond that point.
So, placing an employee on a non-disciplinary paid administrative leave allows you to have a full and fair investigation. So, was anyone placed on administrative leave during this time of this investigation?
No, they weren't, and it's not as though the city was going to undertake an independent investigation when we're paying premiums for the insurance company, which includes the defense, and a very capable defense. EMC is a good insurer. EMC has good defense counsel at their disposal, and they gave us a very good defense counsel. And I don't think it was the city's position to get in and undertake an independent investigation when there's litigation pending.
So at no time you feel that as the city administrator and the council that there should have been an independent investigation?
Not at that point, no.
When the first complaint was made?
But the first complaint was filed almost immediately with a civil rights complaint. It got formal. And it's that point.
No, it wasn't. No, It it wasn't. Absolutely It was not.
Pardon me?
So what you're saying is the minute somebody comes in and makes a complaint, at that time, everything stops, we investigate, figure it out before it ever gets to a lawsuit.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's what I thought you meant.
And I was just asking, what is your policy or procedure in reference to this? Because as a city, certainly there has to be something in writing that says, these are the things that we do.
Well, we do have a policy, but when the complaint is filed with the Civil Rights Commission, that sounds like litigation may follow. And we refer the matter to our insurer, because the insurer wants us to advise them as soon as possible as to any potential litigation. They accepted the responsibility of defending the city and assigned the city very capable defense counsel. And that is what the city's obligation was to the city. I mean, that's a contractual relationship you have with your insurer. That's why you pay for insurance.
In reference to the insurance then, so the claim was $750,000 and the city is responsible for $50,000 of it, is that correct?
That is correct.
Where does the $50,000 come from?
The general fund is my understanding.
That's correct.
Is there, so the chief immediate supervisor is the mayor, is that correct? Who's the chief
Well, it'd be the
supervisor?
city administrator in terms of our hierarchy. You've got the department heads who actually answer to the city administrator. And in the absence of the city administrator, I suppose, if you were to take that slot out, it would be the mayor.
Are there evaluations done on the chief of police? And if so, how often are they done?
I think that they are under the chief's contract, if I'm not mistaken, calls for the city administrator to conduct an annual evaluation,
Yes.
is my understanding. And then the city administrator reports to the council in one fashion or another the results of his evaluation.
So when I read the information from the newspaper, it seemed like that this was over a period of time, since the chief was hired in May of 2010. Her first complaint was in July of 2010 to her sergeant. So it would seem to me that we're talking about 5 years of events, and I'm just confused about the evaluation process if there are complaints being made.
I'm not sure the complaint to the sergeant was something that was shared with the city administration. I don't know that that got out of an internal basis within the department. I do know that Officer Ford did raise the issue or issues with then City Administrator Alan Johnson. Alan Johnson met with her, and Alan Johnson issued a report or a summary, but he didn't believe it was a gender discrimination matter. He thought, if anything, there might be a personality conflict.
Well, somebody thought that there was a discrimination that paid a lawsuit of $750,000.
There was no admission of liability, and that decision was made by EMC Insurance. That was not something that the council was consulted on, that I was consulted on, and I'm not even certain that the defense counsel engaged by EMC was consulted on prior to the mediation session, because I believe that the settlement came as a considerable surprise to the defense counsel that had been hired. But nonetheless, EMC made that decision. They made it based upon the facts as they perceived them and the political and social climate of the time. This was December 2017. It was nearly a perfect storm if you had a gender discrimination claim. Almost every day you would open the pages of the paper and find somebody of some import, standing, position, losing standing and position because of indiscretions on their part in the workplace or maybe outside the workplace. But it was a conducive environment for the plaintiff's claim.
But I
And
don't
that's
think
what-
that takes away from her claim either.
I'm not here to judge her claim. I'm not. I'm just saying there are a lot of factors and circumstances that play into the settlement of any civil claim, whether it be a discrimination claim, a personal injury claim, a lot of factors.
So this council has had no input, from what I'm hearing from you, on this suit.
Yes, we had input in that $50,000 was discussed with the council, and the council approved committing up to $50,000 if the case could be settled. But we set no limits on the settlement, we set no parameters on the settlement. We left that in the capable hands, or the hands of our insurer.
And could you speak to the insurance company? I mean, I only know from being a homeowner, when I use my homeowner's insurance, what happens then is the rates go up. Does this council have any concern in reference to this insurance company and this claim?
Well, I can't address if the rates are going to reflect the settlement. I don't know that, but I can can tell you there've been no discussions, prior to the settlement or since the settlement with EMC or anybody connected with EMC as to how settlement might affect, the city's, rates. I can't address it, I don't know.
Well, I do know that there is such a thing as public image. And because you are employed by the city of Anamosa, your neighbors, your friends, your business associates, they all think of you as representing Anamosa. And the citizens of Anamosa will look differently upon situations when they hear and see things like this happening. And it is certainly my hope that we hold our city officials accountable for their actions and teach our children and our community members that we hold our city officials to a higher standard, and that we employ people who have a higher integrity. I hope that you will consider what I've said today. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy.
On the same subject, I'm Crystal Wary, 207 South Jones Street. I listened to everything that you said, and I'm really quite concerned, honestly, that you swept a lot of that under the rug. A lot of her concerns were brought up to Al Johnson, and I have a hard time when you say you weren't aware. $50,000 coming out of the general fund pays for a lot of ballistics vests that was not provided to her. That's a problem for me. Another problem for me is that the insurance policy, like she said, are the premiums going to go up now? Was there legal fees incurred for the city too? I mean, where else do we go with this? When you dismiss Amy, you dismiss all of us. And that's kind of a problem for me. She's had a long-standing career in this town. And by defending a chief or not taking a stance or not having a meeting or not giving any credit to her at all, that's a problem. You just dismissed her entire case because she was the only female on the department, and it sets up a good place for her. It's a good setup for her to have a discrimination case. That's a problem.
If I can, I don't know what you heard me say, but I can't take your response to what I said as an appropriate response. I didn't pick up that I'm dismissing Officer Ford. I didn't say I was supporting the chief's position. I was just reciting the facts from what I know them to be. That's all. I didn't intend to express any side on the issue.
I think a lot of people are upset that the city council has, to what I am aware of, said nothing about the case. And I understand there was an investigation. And then when you say there's no admittance of wrongdoing, there is a settlement. The settlement does say inadvertently that there was wrongdoing.
The settlement says she gets $750,000. That's what the settlement says, and that's what Officer Ford got. That's what the settlement agreement says.
I still think that that's kind of cutting her short, honestly. There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot.
And personally, again, that's not fair. I held Amy Ford, Officer Ford, in high regard as an officer. Not my place to assess the settlement, right or wrong.
I'm not asking you to assess the settlement. I'm asking you to say
that somehow that I'm on one side or the other. I'm on the city side. I'm trying to represent the city as best I can.
I'm just asking you to admit that there was some sort of a wrongdoing and that the city was aware of it, because Alan Johnson was aware when the complaint was filed. And you kind of made it sound like the suit was filed the next day and it didn't give you guys any reactionary time, and that is not the case. That's not the case at all.
The civil
there
rights
was time.
complaint was filed soon after.
Soon after,
then
sure.
City Administrator Alan Johnson issued his statement following his meeting with Officer Ford, at that point, the city turned the city's defense over to EMC Insurance, our insurer.
So what's the plan now moving forward?
I don't know.
Will there be a policy put into place?
I imagine that is a decision for the council. If the council wants to undertake a review of our personnel policies, if the council wants to review or evaluate our chief of police, those are all issues the city council can address.
But at
Whether
this
they
time,
want
there's
to
no,
do it- Pardon me?
at this time, there's no plan to evaluate the chief of police?
I can't speak for the council. I represent the council, but I cannot speak for them.
Jeremy, do you know when his last evaluation was?
I do not off the top of my head, no.
Cody, you've been on the council for the longest, I think, on this table. Do you know when his last evaluation was?
I don't. I know
I
we
know
do
Al
annually
did.
for all department heads, so
Did
I would
annually
assume in
for
the last
everybody.
12 months.
So we'll have
And
to
I
wait.
did not have an opportunity to review the contract and see if we can, if there's a specific date or interim that the evaluation is required.
So apparently if it's been done, it's not been reported to the council, it looks like.
That is extremely effective. Can we request one? Is that possible?
That would depend on his contract, most likely.
This is just a pattern. Like, this just shows it's a pattern of everybody passing the buck to somebody else. The city council doesn't know if there's been a review. That's a problem. We need to know these things. This is how lawsuits happen, because she went through the proper channels. There's more than one witness to the case in this room, and we will all tell you she went through the proper channels. So, the problem is that the system is completely flawed. She was not heard is why the civil suit was filed. That's what I'm trying to say. And it was just defended again that she was not heard. That's why there's a payout. I mean, it cost the city $50,000 out of the general fund. We can talk about the general fund and donations for just a second, because Amy Ford saved my son's life. We tried to make a donation to the police department for safety and training, okay? And we were told it would go to the city's general fund. I talked to the chief and I said, how can we delegate where the money goes to? The specific training that saved my son's life was no longer at the time offered to Officer Ford. Okay, that's a problem. We wanted to reinstate that. We wanted to make sure that the money was allocated for that. And we were told it would go to the general fund. I asked him, how can we, is there any kind of special, waiver or something where we can delegate? He said, I'll check on it. 2 weeks later, I saw him at Tapkins. Guess what? No answer. A month later, no answer. That's a problem. I'm asking. I called the city council. I called the city hall. They said, yep, it goes to the general fund. Perfect. How can we change this? No answer. Okay, again with the ballistics vest. I called. Amy's vest is expired. This is not acceptable. We're putting officers in the line. It can be violent. We need them to be protected. Hers is expired. Okay, let's fix it. How can we fix it? And they're what, $1,500? Cool. Let's get her a vest. Can we make a donation to get her a vest? It'll go to the general fund. Okay, this is a problem. We are legitimately offering to pay for things and being told no, it goes to a general fund. $50,000 being taken out of that general fund because we didn't listen and we weren't proactive is a problem. Now we're being reactive and it's costing a lot of money. So I guess I'm just curious, what is the policy? When do we learn? When do we be proactive instead of reactive? This is a lot of money, and a lot of these things could have been prevented. So I don't know what the answer is, but I'm literally looking at you guys asking you, what are we gonna do? Because nothing was done, and then there was a lawsuit.
Well, if I may, before I've asked the council to undertake any action, I'd like to review chief's employment contract. We do have a contract, we need to honor the contract, and I know there are provisions for evaluation. I just, as I sit here, can't tell you whether it's something that can be prompted by the council at any time, or it has to be a periodic one. But I'd like whatever action the council takes to be taken within the letter of that contract, so that we have that obligation. We're parties to a contract.
Is that something you can send all the council? Tammy is a copy of this contract, including Adrian?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Is that going to be made public to anybody else? Can that be made public?
That's a personnel
A
policy.
review, no, I mean
Yeah.
like when a review would be available, when it would be done, when the last one
Do
was.
the public get copies of employee reviews?
No, I don't want a copy of the review, I wanna know if it's done, when it's done.
Oh,
Well, what I propose to do is I'll review the contract and send a memo to all the council members, mayor, city clerk, as to when, under what circumstance, evaluation could be implemented. If you wanna choose, in the light of that recommendation, to take on, an evaluation, you can schedule it. And then you can determine how you're going to do it. Do you wanna do a full council, which is kinda unwieldy? Do you want to, because there's a lot of facts, I guess, you're gonna have to look at, and a lot of them aren't, some may be readily apparent. There might be documents that are already part of the court information system that'd be public domain or public record. There may be other deposition transcripts that are not public, that are available to you because of the litigation. There are also some issues that may compromise some of that, because there were really two defendants. There was the city and the chief. And so there's an attorney-client privilege that is gonna have to be addressed on our defense counsel side as to what is available to us that might be privileged communication between the chief and he, and not necessarily addressing the city. There might be some issues.
so did the insurance company, they acted on behalf, their client was the insurance, or the attorney, Matt Novak, was hired and the attorney for the insurance company, correct?
Well, he was paid by the insurance company. He represented the city and our chief.
So he represented both,
He did,
okay.
he did. So there are some issues depending on the depth of the facts. But maybe what you want to consider, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves because we don't know just in what light we can undertake, or you may want to undertake an evaluation. But maybe it's something, maybe you want to appoint a committee of one or two to garner the facts as they see it, and then make a recommendation. There's flexibility there.
Well,
But I think it all starts with a review of the contract and see what the
Yeah.
contract
Right.
spells out.
but I just wanna say this, that I know you three were involved in talking to the attorneys and so forth. Us three were not involved in that. And at some point in time, if we get into a certain area, I personally would like to have Matt Novak here to talk to him to see what his investigation may have found, if that is possible.
Well, I'm sure you've honored that request, but I can tell you, I did recently speak with Matt, and his assessment has not changed from the last time he was here.
Well, but see, that was those three.
We
Oh,
don't know
you
what
weren't
that
there?
was.
We were not here at that point in time.
Well, and that was closed session as well, so,
I was gonna say,
yeah.
I mean, they could probably be filled in a closed session, right? Or now
Well,
that's over?
you know,
Is
there
it-
you get into, is it personnel or employment review? Is it something may affect reputation, in which case it's the employee's
Prerogative.
province to request a closed session? So I don't know. I can't tell you because I don't know how all that's gonna play out. But But I think that if you want to conduct an evaluation within the letter of the contract, employment contract, we're going to need to discover facts, because there's a lot of facts I don't know. You know, I hear a lot of facts recited, and I'm not sure necessarily they're facts. They may be, but I can't say they are or are not.
What can we provide? It's a big spider right here in the middle of the room. What can we provide to help the committee of preferably more than two
I don't
people?
know that there's anything, because I think what there was exhaustive discovery done in connection with that case. I think it's a matter of just ciphering through that to determine what the facts are from that information. But again,
But you would
I think
allow that information, the facts of the case, to be reviewed by the committee who is doing the review, correct?
Would
Because
you
I
say
do
that
think
again?
that there is a big correlation between what we're asking and the facts. So I guess it wouldn't do any good to have a review if you're not